Today we're going to be working on hamstring mobility. We're working on active and passive hamstring mobility. Now the important thing to recognize is that if all you do is passive hamstring mobility, you're doing a bunch of front folds and yoga type movements, you're going to get an unwanted lowered tone in your hamstrings that could potentially put you at risk for pulling your hamstrings down the road. So what you really want to do is strengthen your hamstrings through their entire range of motion rather than just stretching them. We're going to start with a band hamstring pull down that accomplishes just that. So I'm going to wrap the band around my foot, and then I like to put it up around my neck. Some people might complain that that's a little uncomfortable, but they can figure it out. Flip my hat forward, and all I'm doing here, pulling this band to put some tension on my hamstring, keeping my other leg straight, and then just pulling down. Now you'll notice my knee's gonna tend to bend right here when I get to kind of that full range for my hamstring. That's okay. I can also try to be a little bit more strict with it by hyperextending my knee the whole time. But to be honest, I'm not too concerned with that. Just gonna get this big stretch, kind of reach as far as I can, and this turns into a ballistic exercise. So this is a great movement to prep yourself for sprinting or anything where your hamstrings are going to be contracting quickly. From there, we can move into more of a passive motion. So let's say I'm still working on my left hamstring mobility. What I would want to do is put the band around my left foot, stretch that left leg overhead, bring both legs up, and then I'm driving my right leg down. So this is a passive straight leg lower. It's passive because I'm performing a passive stretch on my left leg and then actively lowering the right one. You can also do this by putting your leg on a wall or a rack or anything like that. You don't have to hold the passive stretch with the band. The third movement I'm going to do is an alternating active straight leg lower, and we're going to use a kettlebell for that. So again, we're back in that same position with our legs overhead. I'm going to use this kettlebell to kind of anchor me, to give me a nice firm base. So I've got both legs up, and what you're going to notice here, so I'm alternating putting one leg down and then the other. And what you're going to notice is that as I go through the reps, my legs are going to end up being more bent. Now the reason for that isn't because I'm losing hamstring flexibility, it's because my quads and my hip flexors are fatiguing. So if you were to do this over time and get stronger at it, these muscles would improve in contraction strength and endurance, and conceivably you might be able to hold your legs straighter for longer. So watch here, both legs straight up to the sky, or as much as my hamstrings allow me to, and then we're alternating. Notice I'm focused on my breathing as I do that. It's pretty hard for me to talk while I'm doing that exact exercise. This is very similar to a straight leg dead bug. If you want to bring a little core challenge into it, you could come back to almost like a hollow body hold while you're doing it. Another focus or thing that you're thinking about here is trying to keep that low back rounded and flat against the ground. You don't want to be arching your low back as you go through that movement. So the active alternating straight leg raise is a progression of the first two, and that's something that, let's say you're working with somebody that you're trying to help them improve that mobility over time. You might not want to start with that initially. You might want to work up to that. And then the last movement for today is an inchworm. I'm going to put my hands on the box because I have long legs, my hamstrings aren't terribly flexible. But we're going to start in a push-up position for the inchworm. Walk our legs up. Notice my low back is rounded and flexed. I'm going to exhale. Try to round my low back even more. And then come back to that base push-up position. Walk up. Focus on extending my knees, rounding my back. Push through your hands, extend your knees, round your back. Exhale. And then continue to walk out and walk in. Now, the hamstrings get blamed a lot of times for being really tight, when in reality, there's a certain amount of tone that we're getting from our low back, and that discomfort, that tightness that we're feeling is just as much neurologically based. It's a result of your sciatic nerve as it is that actual muscle being tight. So the theme with all these exercises is to reduce the tone of the extensors of your back and of your hamstrings. So we're flexing, we're posteriorly tilting, we're rotating underneath, and we're breathing all at the same time. Because if you can integrate your core activation and that posterior tilt into your hamstring mobility, that's gonna help you to not live in as much of an anteriorly tilted world. And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I'm naturally pretty anteriorly tilted. I think a lot of power athletes are built that way. You certainly don't have to get rid of it. But if you can learn how to control it and go in and out, you're gonna get the best results. You're gonna be comfortable. You're not gonna have that like nasty low back pump when you're lifting. And that's the ideal positioning for your hamstrings. So give these exercises a try. If you like this content, don't forget to subscribe, like the video. Remember, we have a little bit more description in the comments section too. Thanks so much for watching.